to our roundtable discussion this morning. And today we turn our attention to one of the most pressing issues affecting every Ghanaian and Ghanaian household and also businesses. Sorry, we're talking about electricity tariffs this morning. We've heard that ECG wants to increase the prices by I think over 200%, and that has raised a lot of concerns about the cost of power, the reliability of supply, and also the broader question of whether Ghana can truly strike a balance between affordable electricity and development, really. And of course, electricity isn't just about keeping the lights on; it's about powering industries, creating jobs, and also sustaining livelihoods. Yet, the tension between affordable tariffs and reliable service continues to be a national dilemma. That is why this morning we are asking a big question: can Ghana make electricity both affordable and reliable at the same time? And to help us unpack this critical issue, we are joined by Kojo Yaoche. Kojo Yaoche is an energy policy expert from the Africa Center for Energy Policy. And over the next few minutes or so, we will explore why tariffs keep rising, what this means for businesses and households, and what the long-term solutions could look like for our energy sector. Kojo, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing well. How are you too?
Yeah, I'm well. So excited to be talking to you this morning.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I
It's
know,
been a
right?
while. You're missing the system. Or I have been missing. I don't know which one is it.
You've been very busy.
Yes, rather.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into our conversation this morning. Maybe I just want to pick your reaction from ECG's over 200% increase in tariff that they want to introduce.
Well, good morning to your listeners. At this stage, I mean, it is really a proposal that ECJ is making to the regulator, the PULC, to approve. Um, this year is a major tariff year. So usually every 3 years or so, we do a major review of the tariffs.
Mm,
And subsequently, quarterly, we adjust based on the economic conditions, including exchange rates, inflation, and all of those things.
mm,
So this year is a major tariff year. And so it's a whole process. The first step has to be that the PULC will ask the utilities to submit what they think is the cost of doing their business,
mm,
how much of that should be factored into the tariff that consumers pay at the end of the day. So these are the proposals that the utilities, including ECG, have submitted to the PULC.
okay.
Now, PULC, including stakeholders like all of us, like we are having this conversation, will subject those proposals to detailed economic analysis,
Mm,
uh, see whether the costs of doing business is realistic, and also how much of that we can pass through to the consumer to pay, and have a balance between if consumers will be able to afford it or they will not be able to afford it. So the PULC has a big job on in economic what we call finding the sweet spot between affordability and also what will allow the utilities to run efficiently. So at this point, the numbers have been thrown out there, but I have
mm.
not seen in any period where the increments that are asked for by the utilities meet the quantum that they are asking for. So it is still early days yet to make to have panic over what the utilities are asking for. There will be some increase if the economic justification is there, but I don't think it will be to that level that they are asking for.
Mm. Right. So it means that that's not something we should be so concerned about.
No, we should be concerned about because what the utilities are telling us
Mm.
that this is how much it will cost me to bring power to homes
Yeah.
for people to consume.
Mm.
So if we are not able to reflect all of it into the tariff that consumers will have to pay, then it means that someone else is has to pick up the tab of what is left. Do
Right.
you get it? So, and in the past, we have had to do that uh, through the budget. We've had uh, the Ministry of Finance through the budget mopping up the energy sector to the tune of over $1.2 billion every year over the last 4 or 5 years.
I see.
But that is also not sustainable, right? So we will have to now look at the investments that the utilities bring and say, okay, let's face the investments and say these are things that you need to do, critical you need to do to ensure that the system doesn't collapse.
Mm.
And then these are the investments that you can do to ensure great expansion. So let's prioritize the things that you need to do to ensure that the grid stays stable. And then we can phase the grid growth and expansion projects over a period of time so that we don't have to dump all those costs onto the
Consumers.
consumer. So those kind of decision making will have to happen at some point, but it is something that should, I mean, keep everyone alert because eventually energy is what drives the economy.
True.
Uh, if we don't have electricity, electric power, everything is almost there. This conversation we are having, I'm not sure we'll be able to have it if there is no power,
Yeah.
right? So to the extent that power becomes expensive that people cannot afford, then it becomes a problem.
Mm.
And that is something that we should be keeping an
We
eye
should
on.
be right. Right. But tell me, I mean, from your perspective, why do electricity tariffs in Ghana keep rising? What are the issues that are really underlying this these days?
So a number of factors actually. The cost of doing business. ECG tells us that for their
Mm.
operational cost alone for a year is over 2.5 billion uh, Ghana cedis, which is expected to, within the tariff year, rise to around 3.3 billion. And then you look at their human resource costs, their capital recovery, and all of that. That is just one segment of it. That is what goes into distribution. Then there is transmission, and then there is generation.
Mm.
Now we have seen that there have been some conversation around rationalizing from the generation point. So government is saying that well, some of the PPAs that were signed were badly negotiated. So let's go back and look at those power purchase agreements with the IPPs, the generators,
Mm.
and see whether we can agree some cut back on the charges that they are charging us. And we are told that so far a number of the IPPs have agreed to restructure
Mm.
uh, the charges, right, that they are charging us, and also the debt that we owe them. So that is expected to lead to a certain cost savings on the generation side. Now, transmission is not that much. The biggest problem that we've had has been on the distribution end, where people consume power that is not built, right? So if 100 units of power is produced at a cost X, then it is distributed. Eventually, what happens is that, I mean, we only get to even bill about 60% of those people. About 40% of those people are not billed, they consume for free. And even those who are, are billed, only about, again, 60% of those people pay for the power. Right. So, like I said, all of those things have to be paid for some way, somehow, and they will find their way back into the tariff that we have to pay. So, a combination of factors, the cost of generation, the fuel that we use to generate, right? We are doing currently doing a blend of gas and liquid fuels. Gas, which is cheaper, but we've seen some uh, uh, volatility, some fluctuations in supply, but that has been stable for a while now. But we also see some plants using liquid fuels, but which is much more expensive to generate power. There is a plan to transition all our plants to use gas to ensure that the fuel costs comes down much more. So all this combination of factors add up, and then within the tariff period too, you have quarterly adjustments based on the depreciation of the CD. The macroeconomic factors generally also influence uh, how much increment or decrease we see in the tariffs.
How much of the problem is about our structural inefficiencies?
So, I mean, if you look at the distribution downstream, um, you have people who are still using, for example, postpaid meters that nobody has gone to ask them for uh, to pay for the power that they are consuming. In the cases where they go to ask them, they only give them a flat rate without looking at how much has really been consumed. And there are instances that we have seen where households negotiate with officials to pay them something and then they clear off that debt from the system,
Mm.
right? We have also seen a case where people are also tampering with even prepaid meters to the extent that they're able to and once people are not paying for something, they will consume it to the fullest. If you are people are paying for buying credit to power their ACs, you see when the room is a bit cool, they will put
They'll
it
turn
off.
it off, right?
But if they are not paying, they will put it on the whole night and sleep and enjoy it. So that ability to be able to track those who are consuming and collect those who even connect illegally. I mean, we were in this country when we saw ACG go on a run, uh, seeing churches, even hotels, right, in some parts of the country who are connected to the grid illegally and are consuming power,
Mm.
not being able to track them. So these days, it shouldn't be difficult to use technology to track to see who is consuming power. I mean, a transformer, for example, can only serve a certain load, right? So if the load is a lot more than what you think the area, I mean, the people you've connected to the transformer are consuming, you should be able to identify where the extra consumption is coming from by
Mm.
mapping all those who are connected to that transformer. So those are things that we have not been able to do that have caused us problems. If you look at also ACG's operation cost, we all know you've heard earlier in the year how containers of, I mean, procured meters and all of those things have been stuck at the ports.
Mm.
Reports did indicate that some of those things were bought in excess. I mean, they and we've also had evidence in the past where there are warehouse full of meters, and then those meters are not fit for purpose. And we've taken loans to go and procure those meters. You have street lights that are bought um, on both sides of the road. None of them work, right? Yet the contract was awarded to somebody. So
Somebody.
the procurement system also, we found a way to uh, subsume, I mean, that procurement into the political patronage system to the extent that people who have no business procuring meters and all of those, no experience at all, are the ones giving contracts to procure meters. We know that in recent times we have decided to do some local content in the procurement of meters. And even that, we are hearing that they still, uh, bringing the meters from China and all of those places, sometimes in excess of what we need. And that all comes into the operation cost of uh, the entity, and they would want to see that reflect in the tariff, even though it is clearly an inefficiency that they want to price into the tariff. So those fundamental challenges also uh, nurse the inefficiencies that we see in the
We
system.
see
And ultimately, like I say, somebody wants to pay for it. And unfortunately, it's always going to be the
the
consumer.
consumer. Right. I'm going to come back to you on the structural inefficiency. We'll spend a few more. Some time there very soon. But if you just tune in, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nitrebi Hammond. And this morning we're speaking to Kojo Yaoche. Kojo Yaoche is an energy policy analyst. He's with the Africa Center for Energy Policy, and we are talking about whether Ghana can really make electricity affordable and also reliable at the same time, because we need to pay for the lights to be on, but we are paying very high. So how do we actually balance the two? That is what we are trying to talk about this morning. If you just tuned in, you can join the conversation via WhatsApp 0544321019, 0544321019. You can send me a WhatsApp or a voice note, and then I'll play that for you. You can as well call me on 03039566641, 03039566641, and then I give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us this morning. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH. Please drop a comment. We're also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. If you want to drop a comment there as well, and we will read them for you. Okay, Kojo, let's continue the conversation. So, this brings me to the big question for the day. Can Ghana realistically provide electricity that is both affordable for consumers and reliable for industries? Can we do that?
Yeah, we can um, if principally we eliminate the inefficiencies within the system.
Mm.
That is the big across the entire value chain, right? We are making losses upwards of 30, 32%, right?
Mm.
If we are able to ensure that reduce significantly to the teens or even single digit, which is
Digits, right?
difficult anyway, given the system that we run. But if you're able to even half that losses, we will be able to make significant headway, allow us to be able to uh, reduce the cost of the business that we are doing, and will not be able to will not have to pass it on to the consumer. We run a tariff structure that makes residential consumption of power actually cheaper than commercial.
Mm.
So, well, a huge chunk of the consumers are residential, right? So, in comparative terms, residential consumers are getting a better deal than the commercial. And I've seen proposals from the utilities that is suggesting that we should, uh, even within the residential, there is still bands, right? Lifeline, there is certain smaller chunks of that attracts lower tariff. We should collapse all of them into one. And then one of the questions that I was asking then was uh, if there has been some affordability analysis to
Mm.
see if we do that, eliminate the lifeline, for example, people who are in rural communities that only need electricity, for examples, for the lighting, for charging their phones, and maybe for TV or radio, if they'll be able to afford it. Because one thing we also have to keep an eye on, which is at the core of the question, is that if you make power more expensive,
Mm.
people are still going to consume the power, but you will not be able to track them.
Right.
The power. And when people steal power, they will consume it very well. So we have to fix the inefficiency problems.
Mm,
I know that there are certain reforms that are currently afoot. For example, um, we are considering going back to the private sector participation model for the management and operations of ECG. Uh, I hear the government has settled on a lease, multiple lease option for that to happen. We are waiting to see how they would um, uh, implement that model. The entire sense is that we have to run ECG to as close as a commercial entity, right? You
right.
will not have business that is making losses 35% year on year, and that business will still be there if it is a private business, right? Even though they are providing an essential social service, it costs money to provide power everywhere.
Mm,
I mean, fuel, you have private people generating the power, you have to recoup their investments. You yourself, you are making investments in distribution, you have to recoup those investments. So it is expected that if we bring that process to a conclusion where there is some form of private participation in the management of the entity. For example, those questionable procurement practices that we see. Uh, I mean, it's no longer government that is running it to give the contract to their friends
mm,
and their political supporters. So the expectation is that you are going to have a system where uh, there is more efficiency. There's more efficiency in terms of the cost of doing business. And that should trickle down and translate into savings that can be passed on to the consumer to ensure that you are able to do the right investments because you have saved, you are being more efficient, and being more efficient means that you can supply stable and reliable power and also make it affordable to the consumer. So that process is still ongoing.
mm,
We are expecting that it would end sometime soon, so that there will be some decision on who the private sector player who is going, or the entity who is going to help manage ECG would be, and then we are hoping that we'll be able to use, it will yield the results that we want it to in terms of uh, affordable and reliable power. So it is possible to do
mm,
that, but we have to make the hard sacrifices. The government has to be willing to let go, not entirely because I mean the assets, ECG is still a strategic asset that needs to be linked to the state. But the management and control of the asset, government needs to let go so that we are able to run the system smoothly to ensure the system is liquid, the system is more efficient, and the ultimate beneficiary of that would be the consumer.
mm. So, could you? I mean, now that we're talking about ECG, government bringing in some private entities on board, are we going to see the same for other entities in the country? So for instance, the GWCL. Are we going to see stuff like that in that as well? Because then that would mean that we are selling every asset, or we are giving off every asset that a country owns.
No, so the model that I hear they want to run is not one that is an outright sale. So it's a lease agreement. You don't own the company, but you are a management entity
Mm.
that runs the company.
But
For the water side, we have tried it. I don't know if you could remember aqua vitens and all of that.
yeah.
It hasn't worked too well.
Mm.
And the challenges on the water side are also a bit peculiar. I mean, listening to the proposals that were being made, their cost of running the business has significantly shot up because of illegal mining activities that is destroying the water
The water
bodies that is
bodies.
the
Mm.
source of input for them. So now they have to spend more to try and treat the water for us to be able to drink. So it is a collective decision that we have to make that if we still want to drink good water, for them, it's not, in my mind, it's not even really about whether we should give them higher tariffs, but there are fundamental problems that is leading to the cost of doing business that we need to fix.
Mm.
So, if the state, which has monopoly over force, uh, is not able to root out that fundamental problem, I don't think a private business is going to be any better when it comes to that. It is only the state that can fix that problem.
That problem.
If it was the case that the water bodies were not polluted and it was not resulting in higher production costs for them, even at a point where for some of the plants, the sludge is too much, they would destroy the equipment if they continue to run over a longer period. Then we can say, okay, why are you still running a high cost if all conditions are perfect for you to run and deliver water to people's home at affordable prices? Then we can begin to have that conversation about private sector participation. But for them, the situation is peculiar and it is very worrying that we think that increasing the tariff to be able to take care of the exponential growth in the cost of treating the water is what is going to fix the problem. It will not,
Mm.
unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Let's continue the conversation. So, how do these tariff hikes impact businesses, especially SMEs that are already struggling with high operating costs and all of that?
No, so I mean, it means that your cost of doing business as a small business or even as a normal business is going to go high.
Mm.
Like I said, I mean, power is what makes the economy go around.
Yeah.
Even small businesses, your local barber shop, uh, hairdressers. I mean, just small tabletop businesses and all of that. They need the power to even the market woman that sells condo. When it goes, if there's no power, it cannot grind the corn to come and sell in the market. So all of these things have effects on businesses. Now, what will happen is that also seeing significant competitiveness of renewable energy, for example. So some businesses are going to make the economic decision. Um, if it is becoming too expensive to consume power from the grid, then we have to look for alternatives. In the past, the alternatives were diesel and petrol powered generators.
Mm.
I think a lot of businesses are moving away from that mode of self generation to exploring solar technology, for example. And it's becoming cheaper with storage technology also improving. So uh, we'll see that over time, a lot of businesses will begin to self generate. And then that becomes a headache for the government as well, because then you have capacity that is not being consumed, then you still have to pay for it anyway. So it's like chicken and egg situation. So we have to make sure that uh, the the renewable energy that businesses would use is only a backup to when there are reliability problems on the grid
Yeah.
that they continue to consume from both the grid and also from the renewable energy. If not, then that becomes a problem. And for those who cannot afford to self-generate, like using solar and other forms of renewable energy, they are going to steal the power. That is for sure. They are going to steal the power. They are going to illegally connect. and use the power, and you will still not be able to collect the revenue that you assumed that if you increase the tariff, you are going to collect. So you go back to square one again. That really is the impact that if it is too high, we are going to face.
Right. So, how about ordinary households? Do you think that Ghanaians should brace themselves for higher tariffs in the coming days as a new normal?
What I know is that there is going to be some increase. Uh, I mean, definitely there is going to be some adjustments.
Mm.
What we don't know is by what quantum that adjustment is going to come. But I am very certain that it's not going to be the 200 and what percent that
Mm.
is being requested for. So households have to uh, really brace themselves for it. And I mean, if you take away rent, food, power is the next big cost
Item.
item
Yeah.
for households. And what that means is that the disposable income is being squeezed further because of uh, the higher tariff. For households that have the higher disposable income, you will see that in recent times, a lot of people are going for solar self-generation. You see a lot of these new uh, um, neighborhoods and communities that are coming up. You see a lot of solar systems abounding. That is just a cost mitigation measure for them, and also fixes a bit of the reliability challenges that we sometimes have with the grid. So households will have to brace themselves
Mm.
for a tighter disposable income as a result of increases in the tariff that is anticipated.
Mm.
But that is going to come early next year, uh, unless, of course, governments want to further intervene to say, okay, we know that this is how much you should have been charging, but charge this much just for social equity reasons, and then we'll pick up the tab. We have seen that happen. The challenge is that government will often uh, not do that. They will just come and net off at some point. But if they also do that, it means that they are taking away money that could have been spent on other social spending
True.
for to prop up the inequality, the inefficiencies that are in the criminal sector, for example.
Mm.
So it has to be a fine. That is why I am happy I'm not in the shoes of the regulator. I have to find that sweet spot
Mm.
that makes the power affordable and also allow the utilities to recover to a great extent their uh, costs of doing business so that both the businesses and the consumers are able to thrive are able to thrive within the tariff that has been set.
Mm. Okay, right. We will go very soon because I can see that our time is almost up. But let's try and touch on. I said we're going to come back to the structural inefficiencies. Who exactly is to be blamed for the problems that are in the system? And you talked about fixing the problems. How do we fix them?
I think the problem is a value chain problem. So there's no one fail point along the value chain. There are several. So right from generation to distribution, there are challenges that we need to fix.
Mm.
I did mention about the generation costs that we have. For example, um, we have seen that government, of course, government is party to those negotiations. So government is now renegotiating those contracts,
Mm.
see if we can lower some of the charges that are there, which is a good step. If they're able to do that, that is going to save millions of Ghana cedis that should have been paid to the IPPs and the power generators, for example. Then when it comes to distribution, there are certain investments that we need to make within the national interconnected transmission system. Uh, so that's transmission to ensure that we do not lose as much when we are evacuating power from generation to ACG's substation for distribution. Then when it comes to distribution, we need to ensure that things like overaged transformers, appropriate billing systems that is able to capture everybody that consumes power from the grid, whether legally or illegally, and the ability to be able to follow up on people who are consuming power is illegally and disconnect them and make sure that they stay disconnected, and also ensuring that we are able to cut out politics from the management of the company, because we've seen that for state-owned enterprises that are within the energy sector, the worst that can happen to you as a management is that you'll be replaced. Nobody is not liable for the mismanagement. All those people who superintended the procurement uh, uh, scams that we've seen, as the reports did indicate, are still walking around
Still working
free,
freely, yeah.
pending their actions, right? Even though a committee has been set up and they investigated and they said that you have done procurements out of the 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 system, you've procured things that you shouldn't have procured. All of these things is causing financial loss to the state, but those people are walking away. So we need to tighten those loopholes to ensure that the entire value chain from generation to transmission to distribution is working as it should. I mean, the power system, we are not the only country that is running a power system that is structured like this. There are a lot of countries that are running power systems and it's working, and they are not as much debt as we have in our system. We should learn from the good practices that are out there to be able to ensure that we are providing reliable and affordable power to the people. That is not putting a burden on the state in terms of the fiscal support that it has to always provide for uh, the power sector.
Kojoba, isn't it problematic that the few people that are actually genuinely paying what they have to pay are also bearing the brand, or on behalf of those that are, I mean, on behalf of those that are illegally consuming, I mean, in terms of the revenue leakages we are seeing and all of that? Isn't it quite unfortunate?
Yeah, I mean, that is a sad situation, really, where you get punished to be a law-abiding citizen. Uh, I mean, you are you are the good guy, and then you still get punished
Yeah.
for being the good guy. And for a lot of those good guys, like I was indicating earlier, at some point they will exit the grid. They will start consuming power. They will start self-generating, and that is also even bad for ECG, because if the people who are paying, who are willing and able to pay, are exiting, then it means that your revenue recovery rate is even going to be less, right? So that is why we have to ensure that we are running an efficient system that does not punish people who are willing and able to pay for the power that they consume. We should ensure that we are not pricing the inefficiencies of those who are consuming power free onto those who are paying for the power that they're consuming.
But we seem to be already doing that.
Yeah, so that is why we have to ensure that the reforms are are done on time. The reforms are transparent to ensure that, I mean, the consumers eventually benefit from the things that I mentioned, that is ongoing, that we are hopeful that will be concluded very soon, to ensure the system is sanitized. If we are able to identify people who are consuming power illegally and we take them off, that is savings to the people who are consuming legally and are paying for it, right? So if we leave people to just consume power without paying, and then we say, oh, because the tariff is low, so we need to increase it to collect more revenue. We are not collecting more revenue. The people are consuming the power illegally. You've not been able to track them. So how will you increase your revenue?
Mm.
Theoretical assumption that if we increase tariff, it will necessarily lead to increased revenue and efficiency. We have seen it over and over that that is not true. It does not happen within our Ghanaian context. So we have
Mm.
to revise our notes and fix the problems that we have.
All right, Kojo, thank you very much for your time. It's been a very great conversation, and we have to go now. Super, super grateful that you made time this morning to talk to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ralph.
All right.
Let's do this that time.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much. And we'll stay in touch. We haven't spoken in a long time. We'll do that. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. All right. So it's been a very great conversation this morning with Kojo Yauche. It says that there are so many problems in our electricity, manage or power management space as a country, and there's a lot we have to do. And that brings us to the end of today's business breakfast on Z. And we've been discussing the big question: can Ghana make electricity both affordable and reliable at the same time? And from our conversation, one thing is clear: electricity is more than a utility bill. It is actually the driver of development, affecting everybody, households, small business, and the entire economy. And Kojo says that while tariff hikes may be aimed at strengthening the sector, inefficiencies and structural challenges must also be addressed if we are to see real value for the money Ghanaians are paying. And so there's a lot of work we have to do. And I guess this morning, Kojo Yauche from the Africa Center for Energy Policy has shared some critical insights, the causes of the rising tariffs, the impact on business and consumers, and the possible reforms and renewable alternatives that could shape a more sustainable future. And so as we continue our journey as a country toward development, the challenge remains striking that delicate balance between affordability and reliability. And it's a very tough question, but one we can't afford to ignore. So thank you very much for listening. My name is Nicho Ebihamon. We are coming back tomorrow for more interesting conversations. But until then, please take very good care of yourself. Be a law-abiding citizen. Make sure that you pay your electricity bills. Don't join the few people who are doing the illegal stuff, because their days are numbered. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much to the production team. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. And when you think Ghana, think Z. Bye-bye.